And here we go, Border Barrels. Now, for our regular listeners, they'll be able to tell we're not in the not so good shed, which is our Hutto shed at his house. We're actually in a much nicer place for the first time. Murray Towns. How good?
Yeah, thanks, boys. Welcome. It's nice to be finally here. You guys have been part of our journey, and we spoke probably 12 months ago about what our plans were, and to see them to come to fruition now is pretty exciting for us, and been a process, but we're excited with the short-term future, but also long-term future.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been such a, like, we were just talking before we went on. It's been 12 months since we last spoke, and it's been a short year for us, but it's probably felt like 5 for you. But like, how it's so good to be in this venue. We're talking about it 12 months ago, and now we're here. You guys have had that going on. We've had a fair bit going on as well. You guys opened a brewery, and we got an extra microphone. So not too sure who's had the bigger year. So I'll let the people decide on that one. I'll pass it down this end. I know Gratz is keen as.
No, you're right. Now, we had Barry and Jodie on last time. We've got the third member of the trio, Adam, with us this time as well. Mm-hmm. Do you want to introduce yourself quickly and let everyone know what your role is here in Murray Towns?
Yeah, so I've probably floated around in the background with the guys since 2022. Just dipping in with I've had commercial brewing experience and just super passionate about beer and brewing for a long time. So got introduced to Barry, just came in the fold a bit. So I've come on recently, probably in the last 3 months, as brewery manager, just finishing off the project to get the brewery up and running. So commissioning Monday, super excited. And yeah, I'll be the guy that's just here. My bed's just up on the roof there, and
nice.
I'll just be here all the time, just making sure that this thing's ticking over and you guys are getting the beers you want, and everybody's coming in and getting a locally brewed beer.
That's awesome. And we probably have buried the lead a little bit. It's been, I believe, 3 weekends now, 2 official weekends that has been open, plus a little bit of a soft opening there. And this might sound like a bit of a broad question, but like, how's it been? How's the feedback? And like, are you getting good feedback from locals and from travellers? I know that was a big thing initially, was trying to ignite this area out here on the Lincoln Causeway. But yeah, how are you finding it?
Yeah, I think so far so good. Numbers have been good. Feedback has been really good. Everyone enjoys the experience, the space. I think we've really nailed this space in terms of it's quite tight, but it feels spacious and homely. So I think we've done well with the space. So the feedback overall has been really positive, which has been great. And I think one of the things that has really pleased us is that we have, because we've had the brand out in the market for a couple of years, that it has got quite good acceptance, probably better than what even we thought, because most of the people that are coming to visit are aware of our beers, already have their favourites. So it's really given us a bit of a leg up by having that brand out in the market for that period. So touch wood, so far so good. Not too many hiccups, just a little minor stuff, but overall I think pretty positive.
Yeah, awesome. Now, hiccups, of course, setting up something like this doesn't happen overnight. What can you share with us about things that might have gone right and things that might have gone wrong in the process of the last few months of trying to get the doors open?
This is definitely an Adam question and a Jodie question. I think Adam's probably aged 10 years in the last probably 2 months because of the complexities of that setup. But Adam can expand on that because he's lived it.
I think anyone who's opened a microbrewery, a craft brewery, will tell you that whatever your expectations are, double your financial commitment and triple your time commitment to, say, the actual commissioning date, the opening date has just been this fluid moving beast. There's been a lot of things that's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I still reckon there's a beer name right there, with the experience, but I think if anyone's starting a craft brew, it's really highlighted to us that understanding of exactly what you need and what your expectation is, so that you can prep as much as you can at the start. Because we had this thing commissioned, like ready to be installed before Christmas, and then we had delays on things like our flooring and everything like that, so then it got pushed into after Christmas. And then there was hold-ups because that certain trade that we needed, a plumber or something, just wasn't available, and he was just that backlog of everyone else. He just that real bottleneck there. And then he gets done, and then someone else was about, or there was an issue that came across that you'd never know about until he'd plumbed that in or wired that in. And that's just been the last 3 months of just hitting, all right, we've finally got over that problem, let's start on to the next thing. Oh, and we're back again. So, but the silver lining for it all is I've been living this thing for 3 months, and the intimate knowledge of the equipment now means that I feel pretty confident on exactly how the system's going to run once we start brewing next week, and when something breaks, what's going to take to fix it quickly and get it going. So I probably know the thing better than my own 2 kids at the moment, but that's going to be the silver lining going forward, is just as soon as something doesn't work the way it should, it's not going to be sit back and scratch our heads and try to figure it out. It's going to be, I know exactly where that problem will be. So, yeah, it's a journey, and it's a different journey. It's a completely out of the box thing. Is even though you order a system like this and it's supposed to come like a Meccano set, it's a Meccano set that comes with no instructions and missing pieces. But look, we've had good support. Everybody's been busy, especially trades. So when the trades have been here, they've been fantastic. And, you know, there's been so many inputs from different people outside of our own circle just to get this thing going, that it's a credit to everyone, and we can't wait to be fired up, having brews going, and getting all those people back in, and, you know, really showing that appreciation.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there like a sense of, thank God it's about the beer again? Like, obviously for 12 months it probably, like, you were still selling beer in cans and locally on tap, but yeah, it probably transferred more to a business aspect than the beer aspect. Is there that kind of sense, like everyone's just kind of like, we can get back to making beer, selling beer, and making people happy with beer?
Yeah, I think that's 100% right, is that you sort of, doesn't take your focus off why you're here, but there's so many distractions and so many things that you're trying to account for that you kind of lose. Think, why are we actually doing this? And then to be on the eve of actually brewing kind of reignites that passion and say, well, okay, this is why we did it.
Yep.
You know, lots of trials and tribulations, lots of heartache, lots of problems, but now we're here, so worth it. We'll look back in 5 years and we'll forget all those problems, we'll forget all those little issues, and we'll be just brewing great beer. So, it's great to get to this point and put that behind us.
So you said commissioning, like, it's all starting on Monday. What's the first beer in the tank? What are you doing first? Like, what's the first Murray Towns beer brewed on site?
Well, the one that we need the most, which is the Ashes at the moment.
Okay.
We're low on that.
Yep.
And it's a fairly simple recipe, so we can chuck that in and see how it goes, and not be wasting too many materials and all that sort of thing. So
yeah, so the simple recipe, does that allow you to kind of understand the brewery, like the way the beer's made? Like,
absolutely,
in
less
this
variables
particular,
and
Basically, this week is now about road testing and testing out the brewery. It's not so. It's going to be about the beer, but it's about the equipment that we're going to be using making the beer, making sure that any little hiccups or gremlins that are in the system can get dealt with, and just us getting our heads around the intricacies of this system so that we can then basically take that back to how we're going to brew beer on it. So it's kind of nice problem to have is that the Ashes is our lowest stock at the moment. It's the one that we're going to run out of first, but it's also probably our simplest recipe, so it's a nice one where we don't have to think too much about what comes next with the recipe, we can concentrate on just wrapping our heads around the equipment, tweaking things, making sure that they're working right. And the beauty of that is we've got something brand new lined up directly after it, so we'll just keep that there and we'll see how that goes.
Might ask more questions about that later, but we'll see. Now, I don't want to break the illusion for too many people, because I know it probably will for me, because I certainly like going to a venue or a brewery and having a beer, and I've got the beer, but the amount of work that goes into it, I don't know about. It's like magic. I just see it pour out of the tap. But or do you guys have a proper setup yet for your working week when it comes to brewing? Like in how many days, how many hours, or is that also something you're at the moment just going to test and sort of see how it goes on the fly?
It's all a bit fluid at the moment, but
It's always going to be fluid. At the moment, we've opened up the venue. We don't know which beers are going to move the quickest or not. We're also coming into winter where people are staying in a bit more and things like that, and there's people are watching their spending, so that come into it a bit. But we're also, it depends what beer we brew. Like there's some beers that are just going to be run of the mill. We have a brew day. There's a couple of weeks of fermentation, a few weeks of conditioning, packaging. There's going to be other beers where we're going to come in. There's certain days we've got to add hops, or we might have to add something funky or fruity or whatever. There's certain days where we'll come and manipulate that. So week on, week off is going to be different all the time. It's just going to be about the beer, really. Whatever the beer needs is what will dictate what we put in.
And from a sales and marketing perspective, is we've kind of sat on our hands in terms of our reach out in the market. Not that we want to get ahead of ourselves or think too big, but certainly within our local network, we've kind of compacted what we think we can offer and what markets we can look at and go after. So that will be something on our radar as well, about how we increase our network and our reach, which will also dictate how much work we're putting through it as well.
Yeah. Well,
but also we can start bringing in some of the other recipes that we've got sitting in the background waiting to come on as well. So we've been sitting on 4 styles for the time being because we've been contracting it all out, but now we're sort of driving our own ship, and we can really get into some of those other recipes, some seasonals. And
well, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. That was going to be a question, and can't divulge too much information, I'm sure, but the core range you guys have, it almost feels like you've doubled down on that core range, but it is a really strong core range. And I've spoken to, and these guys have as well, they've mentioned it, many different people that have come here or tried your beers in different ways. They've all got a different favourite, and I think that's a really good base you've set up for yourselves, whether it was by design or not. It was to take it a while for you guys to open this to be able to brew all those newer recipes that you might want to try. But it's really, really cool how everyone has a favourite. And in saying that, you guys were saying before nagging sal might be sort of the favourite for everyone, but have you found that for the punters coming in, is there a favourite?
Well, what sort of showed up in the first week or so is that beer named Sue and nagging Sal, they've always been sort of neck and neck, and the first kegs to run out within about 3 minutes of each other was nagging Sal and Sue. Yeah, so it was pretty incredible to see that.
It'll be interesting how that pans out, because again, we've opened just in time for it to cool down, whereas nagging Sal, while it's a great beer, maybe it's pipping Sue a little bit because of seasonal. Maybe Sue
Colder weather.
it gets
That's
back in
right.
its nose in front come summer, but
The session might shoot to the top very quickly come November, December.
and I think one thing that we're pretty keen on while we've got our own recipes and our likings is really it's people coming through the door is what's going to be their preference and what can we cater for. And we've got 4 core beers at the moment. We've got some more that are coming which will probably add to the core range if they're well received, but a big thing we want is people to come in and say, I like that, but what I really am looking for is this, and then we can start to cater for that.
Yep.
When we're choosing which beer are we going to brew next, if no one's saying, then we'll just choose one. And it could be something that no one wants to drink, but if everyone's coming in saying, we need a hazy IPA, or we need a Vienna lager, or we need a Berliner Weiss or something like that, then we know which direction to go, so how this develops.
Thought you might pass it down. Oh yeah, no, very good. A couple of things. Nagging Sour, I tell you what, our 15 and a half podcast listeners will know that our red ale is not, despite my hair colour, it's probably not my favourite style. But Nagging Sour is the best red beer I've had, hands down. I've had heaps. I actually have had heaps of them, and it's absolutely delicious.
We force them on.
It's true, you do force them, and it's absolutely delicious. So you've done very well with that one, and it'll be really exciting down the road when, like, you wake up one morning or you wake up at 3 a.m. and you're like, this beer doesn't exist, we're going to do it, and you just come in and bloody will do it. You can throw caution to the wind. I think that's all very exciting. From a sales and brand perspective, of course. From a sales and brand perspective, as you mentioned, you've sort of, the beer came first, the brewery came second, and the brand name's already out there. I would have to agree, you've done an excellent job positioning yourself throughout the period from the start to where we are now. Like, it's at the airport. You can get it. You get it in all these different places. It's in stock. It's good quality. It's consistent. And also, I do forget the name, so I do apologise. At the gardens there, they had the camp. No, it was the big event where they had the big long table.
Yes, the long dinner.
That was
event.
How awesome! And you guys were like a major part of that one. It's really good just to get into the hands of the people of Albury Wodonga. And the brewery itself, just early comments. I've been here 3 or 4 times, and each time it sort of brought someone different. It does seem like that place, like, come down and see. It's really nice. And you come down, there's a fire pit going on. There's a few doggos out the front. And you guys are lovely. It's a really good place to be. So I don't know. My point is, I'm bloody happy. I don't have a question. I'm just bloody happy for you.
It sounds like you're wrapping it up.
No, I'm not wrapping it up. I'm just excited. I just wanted to get my 2 cents in. So
I appreciate that, because clearly our whole ethos and branding has been about local. Our brand suggests Albury Wodonga with the river running through it, and turns out we're literally 100 metres from the Murray River. So that all
between them too.
Yeah,
right smack between them.
Right smack between them. So that works well for us, and clearly we want to be seen as local. We want to represent the area as well. So that it's a two-way thing. We want local people to embrace us, but we want to be able to promote our region to to Australia if we can, and we'll do that through our branding. You mentioned this spot previously on the Causeway. I think it's an ideal spot that has unlimited potential, and I think it takes a little bit of work from the tourism bodies, which we'll support, but also from Wodonga Council and Albury Council to get a bit of will about developing this area, and I think it could be a real jewel in the crown for the region.
Yeah, absolutely. And people come to, like, in the northeast Victoria area. It's an excellent area. Like you go to Bright, you go to everyone knows you go to the brewery when you go to Bright. Go to Rutherglen, there's heaps of wineries there, and I can just foresee in the near future, like, going out to, what's in Albury Wodonga? Like, well, Murray Towns. That's the brewery you've got to go and see. It's a bunch of locals brewing bloody good beers. So I can really see that happening. Yeah,
and I think there's another part to that as well, as in we're really keen to promote the industry, and clearly northeast Victoria and even right round us has some amazing breweries, and we've got some guest taps on at the moment, King River, Mountain Monk and Bridge Road. Why not come to Albury, spend a day? We've got Thirsty Devil here, and we've got us here now, and maybe we'll get some more where we can create an industry where people say, okay, let's go to Albury because there's awesome breweries, and the next day we go out to the northeast Victoria, or we go to Midder, or we go up to Wagga. So I think you can really build a great little industry from out of brewing. So bring it on.
Yeah, absolutely.
something that really got me attracted into the craft brewing industry, going from home brewing and being passionate about the beer and the science and the art and everything behind it, into the actual industry and wanting to take it to a career or a professional level, was the way the independent brewers and the craft brewers open up their arms and open themselves up to everyone and anyone, whether you just new to beer, love to have a beer, are a home brewer, or run your own brewery. Everybody will take you in, will help you out, and it doesn't matter who you are, boy, female, worship Jedis or Muslim, whatever. And something that I've always loved about beer, and something that took off with me with home brewing, is not brewing so I had beer to drink, brewing so that I could put it in front of someone else and see them enjoy it, and I get the satisfaction out of someone else drinking something that I made, probably something similar to what cooks and chefs, you cook a nice meal for someone and they enjoy it, that gives you a sense of satisfaction. And then early days talking with Barry and Jodie, something that really stood out to me is how it's about the beer, but it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, it's everybody can get around and share a beer together, and that local aspect that will promote everybody in our community as much as we want them to be part of what we're doing. So, really we'll sponsor people, we'll look after people, we love just being a part of that community. So it's been a really good feel around it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And you touched on the home brewing aspect. I haven't tried any of yours, but I can tell you what, the king of home brewing is down this end. I'll tell you what, I still think back to that day where you brought the beers, and we're going like, what do you mean he brewed these at home? Like, they're delicious, absolutely delicious. I do have a question about a particular beer, and I hope it's okay that I ask. Golden Mac. Is there any more news on Golden Mac?
Well, I've got to be honest, I've had another couple of cracks at Golden Mac, and they haven't turned out anywhere near as good as the one I gave you guys. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's just because seasonal stuff was happening, and it's something that I want to come back to though, because it was a pretty good beer. And I've still got ideas, and I think once we've got some more controls over the process, it'll all come together pretty well. The basic recipe's there. Yeah. It's the process behind it. Yeah. Got to nail it.
I want to slightly jump back to before Simo's monologue. So you guys had Tumut River brewing your beers before all of this. What's their setup like compared to yours? Are you able to kind of transfer what they're doing in their setup to yours, or is there is obviously you guys are learning the setup, but is there an aspect of like we can copy that with this setup, that kind of thing? Is there like a little?
It's a little bit different, but it's not vastly different.
Yep.
Yes and no. It's like cooking in a kitchen. You might have a Westinghouse oven, someone else has got an Electrolux. There's variations, there's slight subtleties to it. Our process is going to be slightly different because we've got a different way that the beer or the wort moves through the system. Our water's different. The water that you brew with in Tumut versus the water we get down here is a completely different mineral profile. So there's ways to manipulate that, and there's ways to bring about copying the beer and mimicking the beer so it's exactly the same. But I don't think we're too interested in trying to do it exactly the way Tumut was doing it. We've got this brewery, we want it to evolve on its own, and as much as we're brewing the beers, it's, once it goes into a tank, it's over to the yeast. The yeast makes the beer, we make the wort, but we'll let this thing evolve and it makes the beer, and we'll tweak it so it's really good, and let it make its own style and have its own fingerprint on it as much as.
The thing is, when we were with Tumut, then we don't have that ability to tweak things, batch to batch, and we just got to sort of run with what they're doing. But now that we've got our own system, we can really, you know, if we don't quite like something, you know, we can just give it a little tweak and finally just fine-tune everything to exactly where we want it, and then dial it in, and that's it.
And so, with Tumut, were you, when you wanted to brew a beer with them, were you just like, we need this, and they sourced, like they had their own suppliers to source hops and yeast, or you provided all of that?
We provided all of that,
Okay.
We went with them primarily as well because they used our suppliers as well for the malt mainly.
Okay.
So, which is a major, you know, part of the recipe. But yeah, it's more just that they have their own systems and techniques that they're running their brew house on, and we'll develop our own, and we'll just make sure that we're doing everything exactly the same every time once we've got those recipes and techniques nailed down to how we want them.
Yeah, sure.
I think one way to put it is Tumut was babysitting our baby. They did a good job with it, but the love for it probably wasn't there. It's our baby, so the difference that you'll probably get out of the beer is this is our passion, this is our baby, and what we put into it will probably take it to another level.
Yeah.
Where they had their own beers, they were just doing this for us, so they were babysitting our baby. They were just, is this what you need? That's what you get.
Yeah, and I guess all reviews of the beer were coming back to the label on the can, which was Murray Towns. It wasn't coming back to Tumut River as the brewer. It was like if someone liked it, didn't like it, whatever the review was, it's like, hey, Murray Towns, this is what I thought. So I guess now that you have more control over, more control over the beer, you can. Barry, you mentioned before, like having that presence locally, like through various local eateries, restaurants, all that kind of stuff. How have you managed now having to prioritise yourself for kegs? Because obviously before this opened, you were putting beer in kegs and they were going straight to this place, that place. Have you kind of had to limit where these beers are going for now, whilst you prioritise having them in stock here?
No, we haven't as yet, and we don't envisage that we will. I think one of our priorities was that we really wanted to look after those that have looked after us, and you know, there's been some venues here that have been with us all the way along, and you know, Public House was the first one to put our beer on tap, so we really value what they've given us, and we don't want to compromise our offer to them. So clearly they still hold priority over what we do. Awesome. We've got enough stock to get us through until we get some beer out of our system. But clearly we want to make sure that we look after them because they've been so good to us, and you know, we just want to continue to build that brand through our local network, and you know, they're all super important to us, and we're not going to let them down.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay. We've definitely managed that. We've made sure that going into this, that we've upped our stock levels so that even if we've got a little bit more of a delay on actually getting our beer through our system, we're going to have enough to cater for both ourselves and for our retail customers.
You mentioned before about the relationships that develop with the local breweries and having some Mountain Monk, Bridge Road and King River beers on tap. How, at the moment, we've got, I believe, a stout from Mountain Monk, a porter from Bridge Road and a Kolsch from King River. So, like, two of those are very malt-heavy beers, and we're going into winter. Is that something, when you're developing that relationship and you're going to put taps on, I suppose, while they're going to host a tap here, do you request a style, or do they just send you something, or how does you've got that relationship already, but when it comes to the beer itself, how do you go about getting it? Because there's a fair few to choose from those breweries.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to answer that, Em, but I think we rely on what they're telling us, but how it fits within our stable as well. I think what complements what we already have in our range, but also on their advice as well. And think, Anthony at Mountain Monk was really keen on that dark ale, and we're more than happy to put it on his recommendation, and it just fits nicely with what our offer is at the moment. So, and the Bridge Road, I think that porter was a no-brainer once we knew we could get it. Yeah. It was going on, and Nathan at King River, clearly he's the king of those styles of beers, and to be able to represent his beers, that style of beer here has been fantastic.
Yeah. And the mistake people might have heard me make then was that I said stout. I believe that the other Mountain Monk stout's in the Lincoln at the moment. I think the coffee stout is next door at the Lincoln. For anyone visiting, and don't get mad if you come into Murray Towns and there's not a stout. It's just next door. But come back and get the dark ale because, as Simo said, the Nagging Sales's favourite red. I believe you've also said your favourite dark beer might be the Mountain Monk.
Really caught me by surprise. Yeah, delicious.
Sorry to cut you off then.
Oh, that's all. I think when we choose our guest taps, there is an element of complementing what our range is. So at the moment, Nagging Cell being quite a dark but a red ale, we didn't have a dark ale. So Mountain Monk's dark ale was a no-brainer. The Kolsch is a different offering. It's leading more as far as an ale can towards a lager style and that sort of style, but it's also a different style to pale ales and things. And the Night Owl Porter from Bridge Road was a limited run they did. And as soon as I found out we could get a keg of it here, I'm like, let's do it. Like, there's not many places around outside of their own venue where you can get it. So,
is there an aspect of wanting to showcase local beers, but like you said, complementary? Are you trying to avoid having the same style? Is that something like you want to showcase Bridge Road, but it's like, we've got our pale that we want to push. We probably don't want to have their pale on tap. Is that something that plays into it as well?
Yeah, I think it is because we want to promote the other breweries. Like I said, we've sort of got this, this nice thing that people can come through Albury and Wodonga, visit Albury and Wodonga, don't know much about the northeast region, and find out through us that there's this multitude of really good breweries. We don't, with all our top offerings, we don't want to have 3 pale ales and 4 red ales and just, they're all slightly different. So even when we're choosing a guest tap, there's no point having multitudes of pale ales. But it's also just that offering, like Beechworth Pale Ale is one of the most popular beers in Australia. If you've drank craft beer, you've probably drank it. There's all these other beers. I mean, if you go to their brewery, they've got so many taps. So the chance to showcase them, but showcase them something different for anyone who doesn't know them, is a really cool thing to be able to do too. Because it is important to us. These guys have all helped us. All the local breweries around northeast Victoria have been immensely helpful in just offering advice, dropping in, lending us things, all sorts of things. So keeping that relationship going and continuing that. But definitely we don't want 4 pale ales all from different breweries on the one tap because, A, we want people to try our beers. It's one of the focus of our tap room. But we don't want to be like McDonald's where, I don't know, a quarter pounder or a Big Mac.
Yeah, like someone walks in and goes, I don't want a pale ale. I was like, well, we got 4 of them. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I forgot I had something there. And
but it's also on that, with that range, the tasting paddle becomes a bit of a journey so that, if you've got 6 beers there that kind of showcase different styles and, as you drink your way through the paddle, it should actually represent a bit of a journey on flavour, so...
Now, we've mentioned the Lincoln, where the building is attached to the Lincoln. You guys announced on our pod last year, the same week it was also in the paper, went out to the wider world, that this is going to be the venue of Murray Towns. Obviously, they've been welcoming with open arms to give you guys this space, I guess. But now you've been open for a little bit. I was going to say, how is that relationship? But I know it's pretty strong because the chips on the table I saw just come out as a gift from the kitchen, I believe, earlier. So it seems like that relationship's going really strong, and it must be great having people maybe that didn't know you guys existed coming to the Lincoln going, I better duck in next door, because I do know someone who did that exact thing on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think it's working both ways really well, and I think Lincoln's very pleased we're here because clearly breweries become a point of destination and can bring people here. But I think also, clearly if people are eating at the Lincoln and they see us, they're interested. They want to come and see what's going on, find out what's happening, and if they're not aware of us, they become aware of us pretty quick. And by the same token, people that come here and maybe have a beer and a snack, we have our own little snack share style food menu they might come here and decide we'll go next door into the Lincoln and have a sit-down meal, something a bit more substantial. So we're getting a lot of cross-flow between the two venues, and so far working really well together. They've got amazing a team of people in there that clearly are invested in what's going on here and are really helpful. We're sharing some staff. We're using their kitchen. They're very, very invested in making this a success. They're really... I've been pleasantly surprised, even with the food offer, that they're continually trying new things and think this could work really well in the brewery. What do you think? Let's try it. So evolving, but so far it's been a really, really good relationship.
Yeah, awesome. When we were here for the opening, there was another beer on tap, the Gateway Ale. Do you have a bit of a backstory on how that came to be, and who wants to take that one?
Oh, well, it's a development beer.
So,
Made on Adam's equipment in his backyard.
I was going to say, originally I would have asked a question to you, but now we've got someone else here with the knowledge, so I wasn't sure who to direct the question to.
So, probably came about the fact that we weren't brewing on our system, someone else is brewing our beers, and we're sitting around going, I just want to brew beer. So, Jodie, Barry and I got together at my place, got out my system, which I built up, a good little pilot system, and we did a pilot batch. And we just went, let's go down the road. We just did something simple, and we just fulfilled that need to brew a beer, really. It came out pretty good, so we put it on tap here, and we got some feedback, and we hadn't named it. We had a few people who've got, pretty good experience in drink a lot of craft beers, try a lot of craft beers, just really helped sort of refine where that beer was going to sit, and it came out as a pretty good beer we didn't dry hop it, we didn't add a lot of hops, it was just enough hops there, it was pretty balanced, it was nothing special in the terms of it was, not hugely covered, full of specialty malts or anything, and it was just easy to drink, and so we started to get that feedback from people who, I'm not a craft beer drinker, I don't drink craft beer, what should I start? Try this, I really like that, stuck with it. We're on Gateway Island, and I can't remember if it was me or someone else, the idea just popped into my head, we're on Gateway Island, this is a gateway to craft this beer, they called it a Gateway Ale, so we've done a pilot batch of that. It was well received, so we'll develop that further, and I think that is a market that we definitely need to tap into this region. We're now the second craft brewery in this area. Thirsty Devil's been about 12 months, 2 years ahead of us. Before that, there hasn't been a brewery in Albury, Wodonga for years and years and years.
25 years, 30 years.
So we're looking at most people drink the mainstream beers. So as they start to come across the craft, they can't just jump straight into a hazy IPA or a stout or something. So I think we need to look at what can we get where we start to go, here's something that a small brewery can brew, and hopefully develop them further into trying new things.
Because that's the Good Shed have a similar setup where they've got here's your craft beer drinkers side of the bar, and then you go over to the other side, and it's for the guys that come in and go, look, I drink mainstream beers, what have you got for me? And that's their their gateway taps for the, like you mentioned Thirsty Devil being local and stuff, and it's not so much a question as an observation, it's so interesting in our journey in all the breweries that we've spoken to, that although you are competing for a market share, it's all about the love for each other. It's if we build them up, they build us up and kind of grow. And is that like how, obviously you've mentioned how you want to help people that have helped you, like how much has everyone kind of contributed to where we are now?
Yeah, and I think it's important. I think the industry understands how small the industry is in the total beer market in Australia, and I think independents hold probably 7% of the total beer market in Australia. So, there's 93% of that market that is there up for grabs, and I think everyone understands that by collaborating and pulling together and educating people about beer. And I think I've said before, you know, if you're sick of beer, try beer, because it's all about, you know, beer's such a massive spectrum of flavours and profiles, where people have sort of grown up with a beer that's it and that's what I drink, and but there's a whole world of flavours out there. So the more the industry can work together to educate people to say, okay, you know, just take a step into craft brewing, craft beers, because it can open a whole new world of taste and flavours and excitement, and you know, you can just get so carried away with it. It's fantastic. So working together is really important to us. We'll continue to work with anyone that wants to work with us to promote the industry and get people excited about craft beer.
Well, I guess you said like there is such that world. So I guess if Bridge Road can convert someone into craft beer, then all of a sudden like we're all the same, where it's like it's a great investment for beer lovers, but it's a terrible investment for your wallet, because it's like you just want to try everything. Once you start with craft beer, it's like, holy, what is that? I need that. And so, yeah, I guess you're all after the same person as such. Like, cause like I said, if someone gets into Bridge Road Pale Ale, then they start trying this Bridge Road beer, and then they're like, whoa, Mountain Monk's here, Murray Towns is here, let's try that, try this. So, I think
it's a real truth in the beer industry, and probably not the alcohol industry, but in the beer industry in Australia, we've got the big breweries, the big mainstream breweries make really highly consistent quality beer. It is brewed to a very, very high quality. But if they had their way, there would be full strength and mid strength, and probably light, and that's it. Yeah. Because there's no profit in creating new flavours and everything like that. It's just, and then for them it becomes about competition. We want the punters to drink our full strength and not someone else's full strength. What the craft beer industry brings to the market is, instead of having a Big Mac every weekend with chips and it's the same no matter where you go, you know, I want something different. And then you start to grow that. You go out for a nice steak and it's like, oh, I'm really into steak at the moment, I want to have a steak somewhere else. Even these people that go around Australia trying all the different palmies, well, it's gone from palmy to you can get a Mexican palmy, you can get a Bushman's palmy, you can get, you know, these weird wacky palmies. Everyone's like, I want something new on my Parmesan. And craft beer is exactly the same. Is people try something like a pale ale and it unlocks these new sensations and new flavours, and they want more of that. They want more, and all of a sudden it becomes about not smashing 15 beers and getting drunk. It becomes the experience of tasting that beer and unlocking those flavours and enjoying drinking a beer or a couple of beers, rather than just smashing, you know, flavourless things down your gullet. And it opens up a whole new world. And then people go, well, what can we try that's somewhere else? I'm going to a different town, or I'm coming back home to Albury and Wodonga. Yeah. I want to experience that again. And so all these craft breweries are popping up everywhere because people want to experience that new sensation, new flavours, new aromas, and enjoy it.
Yeah, and I can tell you what, the big boys are kind of showing their cards a bit, because we think over the past couple of years, Bolt has been snapped up, Stone and Wood isn't independent anymore, and they're buying up these craft breweries because people are bloody drinking it. So they're like, geez, we better get onto this. And as you mentioned, there's probably there's no money in, you know, creating different flavours and that sort of stuff because of all the R&D and all the stuff they have to put in it. And as you said, it would just be sort of 2 beers. But I think the craft industry is sort of winning. So even though they are owned, at least those styles of beer, it's like, oh, gee, we better get onto this because, you know, this is a thing.
It has forced their hand. It has forced their hand. And again, instead of them investing in R&D to create their own craft beers, they're like, we'll just buy them up. Now it's twofold. They start to get control of the market again. But I can guarantee you that if the small independents disappear, Bolter, Pirate Life, all these brands will disappear, and you'll get VB, Melbourne and Carlton Draft again. Because there's no profit in them. The profit margins aren't there for big breweries to make craft beer. So I think there's a big point is supporting independent beer has the flow-on effect that the big breweries will keep producing more mass-produced craft beers, and just keep that range on the market. So whereas important, like the small independents are very, very important for an expanded beer journey than relying on the big players to do it.
Just need to keep expanding that passion to more and more people, because you're right, and it's so funny. We all talk about we go away anywhere, and the first thing we do is go, oh, is there a local brewery, or is there somewhere that sells? Yeah.
She's like, we're going here, first Google is breweries in X. And
I think it
I
comes
like
back
that
to...
they're kid-friendly usually these days, at least. So, yeah, and I've noticed, and I told you the story the other night, my son likes to point out that's where the beers are born every time we see the tanks. So I love this because you can see the tanks, and as soon as we walked in here, he'd have to tell me, oh, that's where the beers are born. It's like, yes, okay, now settle down.
I think it comes back to a little bit, you touched on a point there about craft breweries are now becoming a destination. And going back a few steps to us working with the Lincoln, is people are looking for where's the nearest brewery. Now, someone who might not have come across to the Lincoln now sees a brewery attached to them. And we've had it quite a few times, especially on a Saturday afternoon, people are here having a few beers. Next thing you know, they get a little bit carried away, they've stayed a bit longer, and they're like, you know what, we might as well go next door for dinner. And so it works. There's been people come in and said, oh, but they're a bar and you're a bar, isn't that like you're competing against each other? I'm like, no, we're complementing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the conversation's been pretty serious, but I have to bring up a little Easter egg that was pointed out to us just before we started recording. It was mentioned as the origin of Murray Towns on the first podcast that we did with you guys. So apparently there's something sitting at the bar that might hint at the past. Can you give everyone an idea? Because if they did listen to our first one and they come in, there might be something they might look for when they come in.
There's a little chicken that does the rounds here, which goes by the name of Princess Fluffbum, and this was a bit of a nod to clearly our journey started in Jodie's backyard, in his chook yard. This is through COVID, and you've heard the story that you wish just to sit around. Jodie was making great beers back then, and they're the kind of beers we've landed on, that 4 beers, and you said that, you really enjoy, and they're the beers we enjoyed sitting in the chook yard, sitting around a fire, just enjoying each other's company. But particularly Jodie's beers, who we thought were the beers that really filled a need for us, because they just beautiful, easy drinking, great beers. So Princess Fluffbum was one of Jodie and Sal's. And Sal's clearly another story.
He's
that
no longer
has
with us.
So once Princess Fluffbum passed away, we thought
Fluffbum's a chicken.
we needed to honour her in some respects. She sort of does the rounds of the brewery. She pops up here and there, so just keep an eye out for her. And if you see her, you'll know what she's about.
Yeah, awesome. I might be dating this podcast for anyone that listens in like a year or two. But you supply us with beers. We're in an egg shortage at the moment. How is the chook yard looking? We might be coming around for some eggs soon as well.
There's a few eggs coming out, but it's the wrong season. Sorry, guys.
Is there an egg shortage?
Wait for the spring. They'll be good in the spring.
Something to do with bird flu, and they're flying over people's houses where there's free-range chickens, and now they're worried that some of the chickens are getting it. So.
Yeah, and we've already sorted this one out. So with the chickens, obviously, like we know how to fix it. We just need to segregate all the chickens, 3 shots, all these payouts, that's what. And I'm sure the chickens will be fine. So we have been through that before. Sorry.
I thought you were going to wrap it up there, but no, I did finish on that note because we've the second time we've spoken to you guys, we've gone through all the really fun sort of I guess technical side of things, and I'm sure as we spoke about before, there might be some little things we can do with you guys in the future in regards to the way we taste things. Maybe we can turn that into a 3rd podcast at some point in time, but for now I think we're just looking forward to getting here as often as possible and supporting you guys, and you've supported us. So again, we talked about the industry supporting one another. Thank you for inviting us in to be able to do things like this with you guys. It's amazing. We love it. We love being fans, but also feel like we're almost a little bit of a part of it as well. Any parting word? Obviously a bit of promotion. I see some t-shirts behind the bar, so I'm sure we're going to sell some of those at some point, and we want everyone else to get down and try the beers and the shirts, but Yeah.
Yeah, no, merch is available, stubby holders and T-shirts at this stage, but that'll expand it into hoodies clearly for this sort of weather and other bits and pieces, so that'll keep an eye out for that. But, to you guys, we appreciate, you've been on the journey with us, really. As I said, it started over 12 months ago when we first met, so you've clearly been involved in what we're doing. We love that you are invested in what we're doing as well, so, long may our relationship continue, and we'd love to have you back regularly, clearly, not only across the bar but across the table talking as well. So appreciate it.
We'll definitely become regulars across the bar, that's for sure. Absolutely.
I think a big one too is if you come into the brewery, say good day. Like I will probably bore you to death talking about beer, so there's probably no limit to how far I'll go. You'll be telling me to shut up and walking away before I actually stop talking.
The only difference, though, is that you actually know about the beer. We bored people to death about beer but have no idea. So.
But I think part of the thing we're trying to present, we've got these big glass windows showing everything that happens on the other side. It's a little bit of a window, but if you want to know every intricacy of how our beers are made, happy to share that and love to talk about it. So, come in here, have a bowl of chips and get a beer if that's your fancy. If you want to come here, immerse yourself in how it's made, why it's made, everything. Yeah, we'll definitely fill your ear full of that. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks again for having us, guys. Just probably an outro. It's very exciting. There was a point before where Hudson was talking about do you have enough beer to get you through? No, we brewed extra. What an awesome problem to have. Because you're worried about running out of beer. It's going so well. But next Monday, that behind us is kicking off, so that's very exciting. Best of luck for that. And so first beer through, we alluded to it before. What do you reckon?
The Ashes.
The Ashes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's awesome. No, fantastic. But good luck, boys. Thanks for having us, and we'll catch up soon.
Appreciate it.
Great.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome.